Welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast from www.englishwithkirsty.com. Here I'll be sharing with you tips, information and other learning resources so that you can improve your business English. Hi and welcome to episode 189 of the English with Kirsty podcast. Today I am talking to Eva, who has some experiences to share about working in international businesses, working with multiple languages, and some tips about working with Spanish-speaking countries as well. So I hope you enjoy our conversation. If you want to find out more about Eva and her businesses, you can go to the show notes page, which is englishwithkirsty.com/podcast/episode 189. Hi, Eva. It's really good to have you here today. Thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Hi, Kirsty. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, maybe we could start by you just telling the listeners something about you and what you do.
Yes, of course. So I am a Spanish translator, originally from the south of Spain, a town called Almeria. And I've been in the UK since 2008. I'm married to a Nigerian, and we've got two little girls born here in Cheltenham. And I am the director of Genuine Translations, which is a multilingual translation company. We currently cover 32 languages. And also I am the co-founder of Local to Global, which is a gateway to fulfill all the exporters' translation, linguistic, branding and cultural requirements when they are entering new markets.
Okay, so that sounds really interesting. You're working with lots of different markets, lots of different cultures.
Yes, yeah.
No 2 days the same, I imagine.
Yes, definitely. I really enjoy working with both translators and clients from all over the world.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you're from Spain. I know I have some listeners from Spain too, and some of my customers as well. I'm just wondering, as somebody that's learned English, have you noticed any things that are particularly like more of a challenge for a Spanish speaker learning English, and how did you get around that challenge?
Yes, so for example, with the English adjectives, as you know, well, you might not know this, but in Spanish, they go after the noun, the adjectives, and in English, obviously, they go before. And when there are several adjectives, it's a bit tricky to work out which one to use after the noun first. So I learned a little rule of using the adjective that is closer to the noun. So, for example, if it's a big, white country house, I will translate first country, then white, and then big. So the other way around in Spanish.
Okay. I guess in Spanish it goes in the other order, like the country. Okay.
Yeah, we normally have things like and in between adjectives, so we wouldn't say all the adjectives together as in English.
Oh, okay, so it's like big and white and country house, like separating them up.
Yes, yeah, we tend to separate them.
Okay, so yeah, that's good to know, because I think sometimes people just see a mistake and they think it's a mistake, but once you learn a bit more about the other language that the person was speaking, like sometimes with my German speakers, I can tell what they've done because I know the language, and really it's just like following a grammar structure from that language and using it in English. It's not just a mistake, it's just thinking a bit in the other language and forgetting that they work a bit differently sometimes.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that's what I found a bit trickier, even till now. Apart from obviously pronunciation, things like the Z, I find it really hard to pronounce. But yeah, those are the two main ones, I will say.
Okay, that's good to know. And like for communication, it's about more than just the words that we say and the way that we put the sentences together. What differences have you noticed in terms of doing business, like between either for people in the UK doing business with Spain or for Spanish people doing business with UK companies? Are there things to kind of be aware of and watch out for?
Yes, definitely. There are so many cultural differences, and some of them are very obvious, like the business hours or the holidays. For example, in Spain, especially in smaller towns and cities, you tend to work in the morning, and then you have a little break at lunchtime, and then some offices do the afternoon, or they might do the whole day till, like, I don't know, 9 till 3, but they will still have a bit of a break in the middle. So it's just those things. But other offices might open in the morning and then close at lunchtime and then open in the afternoon, just like the shops. And then regarding the holidays, for example, Easter, this week in Spain, this week we are recording, Kirsty, we have 2 extra bank holidays. We've got Thursday and Friday, and we don't have the Monday, Easter Monday. So it's just those business hours and holidays that people need to be aware of. But then obviously there are communication differences. So people might think that the Spaniards are very direct when they communicate, and that in a way is true, but there's a big difference between the spoken Spanish and the written Spanish. So if you're dealing with someone via email or by letter, you use a more formal language, and I think people just need to be aware of that when they are communicating with someone from Spain in a business context. And the language is a bit more indirect when it's written. So it's not as, it's a little bit more subtle, and you might have to read between the lines. And that's why also we prefer communicating via the phone or even in person. There's I think in Spain, people prefer to build the relationship on a face-to-face basis or over the phone rather than emails. And we're not that good at replying to emails.
That's good to know then.
Because for example, in the UK, they will expect an email, I don't know, within a few hours, but in Spain it might take a bit longer. And I guess that's why people just prefer the phone. It's just those cultural differences. Those are the most noticeable. Obviously, there's the thing about going for lunch during meetings, as in having informal meetings over lunch or coffee, and they might think, UK people might think that the Spanish are just delaying for example, signing a contract, but it's just part of the culture, taking people out for lunch and discussing things over lunch or dinner. Well, not so much dinner, maybe coffee and so on.
Just getting to know people before you find that deal. You want to know who you're dealing with and get to know them.
Yeah, that's how we build relationships as opposed to completing tasks. Yeah.
It's a bit more long-term in a way then, isn't it? It's not thinking about like what are we doing here and now, but it's thinking about like an investment in the relationship in the future if you're going to do business with them. Yeah,
and I think that's why also when you are trying, for example, to get a new client in Spain, it's good to just see who you know, and there's a lot of introductions and referrals in Spain. In that way, people would prefer working with someone they know they can trust because they know someone else in common, than just a random email asking for for a business relationship.
Another social, like something like LinkedIn is really good for referrals, but are sites like LinkedIn used widely in Spain, or is it more kind of people's own individual networks?
I think in the business world, more and more people are using LinkedIn, especially now with the pandemic. But I don't think it's used as much as here, probably. I wouldn't.
That must have changed a lot of things, like with the pandemic, and I know that I don't know as much, but I guess there were some lockdowns in in Spain as well, which meant that people couldn't go to work and do some of their like normal activities, like going to the cafe or going out for restaurants and lunch. And
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So talking about cultural differences, I was just going to ask about, you know, I know there are some differences between German and Austria or Switzerland, even though German is spoken in those places, or at least in parts of Switzerland. Are there any differences between Spain and other Spanish speaking countries, like in South America? Is there anything to be aware of there?
Yes, there are some. I know we share the language, but obviously South America is huge, and many countries there are Spanish speaking countries, but they still have differences between them even, well, both linguistically and culturally. I think in general, I could say that in Latin America, everything is a bit slower regarding timing, and they are a bit more flexible with the time. So yeah, it might take longer to sign a contract or start a working relationship with someone there. They also really like the face-to-face interaction, and they go for even longer meals there. And yeah, so yeah, just people just need to be patient and understand that they want to build that relationship before trusting you with any business. So yeah, I think Spain might be in the middle between the UK, for example, and South America in terms of that relationship building and flexible time.
It's really good to know, because like I'm sure in the UK sometimes we can come across as being a bit pushy and like, come on, get it done, when if somebody else is trying to build a relationship, that won't end well, and it probably won't end in business being done if, you know, if we don't understand the way that both cultures work together and meet in the middle somehow.
Yes, and I know the Americans find it particularly difficult because they are really, really low context, and they want they separate business from personal as well. So yeah, there might be a bigger clash there. But it's Latin American people are just wonderful to work with. It's just that it takes a bit longer to do business with them, maybe.
But as you say, if a lot comes through recommendations as well, then that's, you never know where that's gonna lead to, because of all the people that somebody might know that you're doing business with. And then if they really enjoy working with you and are happy to recommend you, then that's like an amazing marketing opportunity too. Definitely. Not that you should do it for that reason, but you know, seeing the advantages of not being in such a hurry.
Yeah, and the relationship will be longer term, I think, as well. Yeah.
It's not all about instant results.
Yes.
So where can people find you online if they want to know a bit more about you and what you do? I know you've got a couple of businesses, so we'll put all the links on the show notes page anyway, but maybe if you could tell people what they are and what social media you like to be on, if you've got any other profiles there.
So my preferred social media platform is LinkedIn. I'm just really happy using it and comfortable with it, and yeah, so I'm there most of the time, obviously on my email as well, which I'm sure you have it as well, Kirsty. No, I can, it's eva@genuinetranslations.co.uk. And also the local to global email, that's hello@localtoglobal.uk. And that's for myself and my partner, Janina.
Okay, I'll put all of those details on the show notes page. And in terms of the languages that you do, so your translation work, you said 32 languages. I'm not going to ask you to list all of them, but what are the main ones that you tend to work in, or are there any kind of plans for new ones coming up, or what?
Yes, so at the moment it's most of the European languages, and I've been getting requests a lot for German, French, Italian, and Spanish. And I would say those are the main ones that I deal with at the moment. But obviously, yeah, the other European languages we cover as well. And then there's Chinese, Japanese, Arabic. And we hopefully will be getting more collaborators that can do Hindi and the more of the Asian languages. So that's an exciting area. But yeah, and then if we don't cover the language, we can always find translators for it, depending on the variant and the specialization as well.
Yeah, and I think this is so important, like in an age of, I sometimes see people doing a really bad job with the Google Translate and just saying to me, oh, is this okay? Like, well, no, it's absolutely not okay. I think the worst time I saw somebody do that was with actually with a contract. They just put a contract through a Google Translate and asked somebody to sign it, and I suggested that they didn't. But you know, like, it's so important now, like we're doing business with people from other countries, and we need to get this stuff right, because if you're talking about people moving goods around and making sure that paperwork is correct, you know, a lot of the stuff you can't afford to make mistakes with it.
Yes, definitely. And Google Translate is not confidential, so for contracts, for example, I wouldn't recommend it.
I was really shocked.
Yeah, and also for websites, because I recently heard that because when you're using Google Translate for a website, it doesn't take into account the keywords, because Google considers them something done by a machine as opposed to a human. So it won't help with the keywords if you are translating a website with Google. So that's something people need to be aware of as well.
I wasn't aware of that, but it makes sense that you can tell when something hasn't been done by a real person. But also in terms of your brand and your reputation, like if somebody comes to a site and it's badly done, people will click away, because it affects their trust. You know, it's unfortunate, but if you see something that's, you know, badly done, you think, well, they couldn't get that right, so maybe they're not a very trustworthy person to do business with, and you will lose sales that way if you do that.
Definitely.
So
it's part of my job. Yeah, it's part of our job to raise awareness about that. But yeah, I think some people understand it more than others. So yeah, it's just being aware. Yeah,
and like my grandma used to say, if it's worth doing something, it's worth doing it properly.
Yes, you know? Definitely. That's really good.
So yeah, thank you for your time today, and I will I put all your links up on your page so people can go and find out a bit more about what you do. And yeah, thanks for coming on and for sharing your tips with us.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. If you have any questions or comments, my email address is kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com, or you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast, where you'll find information about the individual episodes.